Don Rosendo Jimenez pondered this question every dawn, when the sky over Michoacán was still a dark canvas dotted with dying stars. At 59, his hands were maps of scars and calluses, each line a story of endurance against drought, debt, and neglect. The ranch. El Amanecer, 20 acres of land that had never appeared in any tourist brochure, was his only inheritance, his only truth. The cold August wind seeped through the cracks of the wooden house he had built himself. Stone by stone, 28 years earlier, he adjusted his worn hat, that faithful companion that had survived 3 presidential administrations, and gazed out the window. Since Carmela, his wife, had passed 8 years ago, taken by a silent cancer, only he and Xochitl, his 17-year-old daughter, remained, facing together that universe of corn, beans, and coffee they had cultivated with stubborn, proud hands. "It's poor land, but it's ours," he repeated to Xochitl whenever she spoke of college, the city, other horizons. But who was he to clip her wings? The girl didn't just milk cows and plant coffee like any other young person in the Highlands. She also devoured books on agronomy and economics from the town library. Between furrows, Xochitl spoke of terms that sounded foreign on her tongue. Regenerative agriculture, value-added, fair trade. "Bulletin, there are ways to make the land yield more, Dad," she'd say, her eyes identical to Carmela's, shining with a certainty that both unsettled and filled him with pride. Rosendo had never made it past 3rd grade, but he possessed the sharp intelligence of a man who'd learned to read the land and sky. He knew the daughter life had given him was exceptional. He'd known it since she was 5, when she asked why rainwater tasted different from well water. The invitation arrived in a white envelope, too elegant for the rusted mailbox at the edge of the dirt road. It was delivered by Don Felipe, the Gio, mailman who made the trek to the farthest ranches every 2 weeks. "They sent this, Don Rosendo." "Seems important," he said, wiping sweat with a faded handkerchief. "Agro Future Group is honored to invite you to a working dinner to discuss regional development opportunities and strategic alliances." Rosendo didn't understand half the words, but he grasped the essence. The businessmen buying up land in the region wanted to talk to him. 3 neighboring ranches had already sold, first the Sanchez family, then the Ramirez's, and just a month ago, Don Emiliano Gonzalez, his lifelong friend, had signed papers and moved to Morelia with his kids. "The land's dying anyway," Emiliano had told him the last time they shared mezcal under the old avocado tree. "Why keep breaking our backs? My boys want to study, not end up like us." Those words had been a knife to Rosendo's chest. End up like us. Was his life so sad, so insignificant, that it had to be seen as a curse? Memory dragged him back 30 years to the deepest humiliation he'd ever felt. Him, barely 28, standing at the counter of the agricultural bank hearing the verdict. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jimenez, but you don't meet the loan requirements. No property title, no collateral, no credit history." The clerk didn't even look him in the eye as he listed his shortcomings. "But it's good land, sir," Rosendo had interrupted. "Give me the chance, and in 2 harvests I'll repay—" "Listen," the man cut him off, removing his glasses with a weary gesture. "People like you always say the same thing. Then comes drought or pests or some excuse, and the bank loses. It's money. Why not work as a laborer? It's safer for everyone. People like you." That phrase haunted him for years. It drove him to work like a beast, to save every cent, to buy 1 acre, then another, to build his house stone by stone, to prove that people like him, farmers without pedigree, without political connections, with no capital but sweat, could carve their own destiny. When he met Carmela at the Pátzcuaro Town Festival, she'd seen something in his eyes, a determination, that made her fall in love. They married with nothing but a handful of dreams and her parents' reluctant blessing. "Someday we'll have our own land. We'll owe nothing to anyone," he'd promised. And here he was now, 3 decades later, with the land he'd sworn to earn, but without Carmela to share it. "What does the letter say, Dad?" Xochitl had slipped into the kitchen, watching him curiously. A dinner invitation from Agro Future. The ones buying up all the land? Rosendo nodded, running a calloused hand over his sun-leathered face. Are you going? She asked, her tone less a question than a challenge. I've got nothing to say to them, he replied, crumpling the paper. I think we should go. Rosendo stared at her, surprised. Xochitl wasn't. Like other girls in the region, where others saw problems, she found challenges. Where others bent, she stood tall. Why? To let them offer pennies for what we built. To hear them out, Dad. To learn their plans. To show them we're not ignorant. That word, ignorant, twisted in Rosendo's gut, as if his daughter had read the invisible scars he carried from that bank humiliation. If we go, she pressed, we'll have more information. Knowledge is power, right? If we don't, they'll think we're afraid. Fear. That was the emotion he hadn't named. Not fear of their fancy words, their polished suits, their condescending smiles. Fear that they'd try to take the only thing truly his. Part 2. A week later, Rosendo found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, ironing his one good shirt reserved for town festivals and Carmela's memorial mass. Xochitl helped him prepare. She wore a simple but dignified dress, her mother's legacy, altered by Doña Remedios, the village seamstress. You look good, Dad, she said, smoothing his collar, like a true Michoacan rancher. That's what I am too, he replied, hiding his nerves. Nothing more, nothing less. The restaurant, Los Pinos, was a 40-minute drive down winding roads in their old truck, the fanciest spot in the region, frequented by politicians and businessmen passing through Morelia. The moment they entered, Rosendo felt the weight of stares. His hat, though clean, was frayed at the edges. His hands, scrubbed with pumice the night before, remained rough and sun-darkened. Beside him, Xochitl walked tall, her dignity so reminiscent of Carmela that his throat tightened. A suited man approached with a practiced smile. Don Rosendo, so glad you could join us, he exclaimed, extending a hand too soft, too cologned. Alejandro Fuentes, Director of Rural Development at Agro Future. They were led to a table where 5 others waited, 3 men and 2 women, all dressed as if they'd stepped from a magazine. Introductions flew by. An agronomist, a marketing specialist, a bank representative, a sustainability director, a lawyer. And this must be your daughter, Fuentes said, gesturing to Xochitl. Lucia Marie Jimenez, she introduced herself, shaking each hand firmly. But everyone calls me Lucy. Lovely name, very folksy, one woman remarked, her smile not reaching her eyes. Dinner began with small talk, weather, harvests, harmless anecdotes, elaborate dishes with French names Rosendo didn't recognize, arrived in portions so small they felt like mockery. He barely touched his plate. After the second glass of wine, business began. As you know, Don Rosendo, Agro Future is implementing an ambitious project to revitalize Michoacan's farmland, Fuentes began, projecting images on a screen. We're creating an agro-industrial cluster to revolutionize production. A what? Rosendo asked, a cold sweat trickling down his back. A cluster, interconnected businesses, the man explained condescendingly. But don't worry about jargon. The point is, we're offering small landowners like you a chance to be part of something big. They spoke of our economies of scale, value chains, our global market projections, terms that floated like exotic birds Rosendo couldn't name. He noticed the executive's sidelong glances whenever he frowned or asked for clarification. In short, the lawyer said, we'll buy your land at a fair price with the option for you to stay on as a supervisor. A win-win, as we say in the business. A what? Rosendo asked again, shame mixing with anger. Where everyone benefits, Lucy translated calmly. May I ask a question? She added, addressing the group. Of course, miss, Fuentes replied, curiosity lacing his condescension. What farming model will you implement? Conventional monoculture? Or have you considered agroecological systems? The question seemed to throw them. The agronomist cleared his throat. We'll follow international productivity standards, technified monocrops with drip irrigation, strategic use of advanced agrochemicals, full mechanization. Have you measured the impact on regional aquifers? Lucy pressed. According to Conagua's latest study, the water table has dropped 15 meters in 20 years. An uncomfortable silence fell. Rosendo stared at his daughter, astonished. "Young lady," the sustainability director interjected, "we've done environmental impact studies. Our model is perfectly sustainable." Like in Sinaloa, Lucy countered, they implemented a similar model and depleted aquifers in a decade. Your company paid millions in fines for atrazine contamination. The director paled. "That was a unique case. Conditions here differ." "And did you consider my father's ranch is in a biological transition zone? UNAM documented endemic species there in 2018. Mass herbicide use could cause irreversible biodiversity loss." Fuentes tried to regain control. "Miss Jimenez, we admire your enthusiasm, but our experts have evaluated these matters. We're offering your father freedom from struggle. With the sale money, you could move to the city, study, live better." "Better?" Rosendo spoke at last. "Better than what?" "Well," Fuentes hesitated. "Better than stooping under the sun, battling drought and pests. No offense, Don Rosendo, but that lifestyle is doomed. The future is large-scale agro-industry. People like you." There it was again, that contempt disguised as pity. Rosendo's blood boiled. He was about to leave when Lucy rested a hand on his arm. "Would you care to see some data?" she asked, pulling out her phone. "Since we're discussing the future." Without waiting, she projected charts onto the screen. "Results from our collaboration with Michoacan University researchers," she explained calmly. "We've implemented a silvopastoral system combining shade-grown coffee, native corn, fruit trees, and conservation areas. Images showed El Amanecer from all angles, diversified plots, rainwater harvesting, terraces preventing erosion. Over 3 years," she continued, "our yield per acre rose 28% without agrochemicals. Our organic coffee sells at premium prices. The drought-resistant corn my father bred is now in a national seed bank." Rosendo watched her, awed. He'd never heard her speak like this, with authority, certainty. He recalled her studying after fieldwork, taking soil samples, photographing insects. "Most importantly," Lucy said, "our profit per acre is 32% above the state average, while regenerating soil, not depleting it." The room fell silent. The agronomist spoke first. "Are these figures verified?" "By the agronomy school," Lucy replied. "Part of my national science competition project. We won first place last month." Rosendo knew nothing of this. No mention of a competition, a study. He looked at her as if seeing her anew. "Impressive." Fuentes conceded stiffly. "But we're discussing different scales. A family ranch isn't industrial production." "So that's the point, Mr. Fuentes," Lucy said. "The future isn't industrial monocrops, it's agroecological networks at human scale, systems that produce food while healing ecosystems." "That sounds lovely," the banker said patronizingly. "But global markets demand volume, standardization." "Markets are changing," Lucy interrupted. "Demand for ethical, traceable goods grows 3 times faster than conventional commodities. Our model isn't just ecologically sustainable, it's economically resilient." A heated technical debate ensued. To Rosendo's amazement, Lucy countered every objection with precise data, studies, statistics, dismantling arguments one by one. The climax came when the lawyer snapped, "This is quaint, but small producers like your father are obsolete. What you do is in folksy, not the future of Mexican agriculture." Silence, thick as the hush before summer storms in the Michoacan highlands. Something shattered inside Rosendo. The shame he'd felt entering, the fear of inadequacy, all transformed into a quiet, unshakable certainty. He stood slowly, adjusting his hat. "My daughter spoke your language. Numbers, studies," he said firmly. "Now I'll speak mine. I'm a Michoacan farmer." All eyes fixed on him. "This land you want isn't just deeds or map coordinates. It's where I buried my daughter's umbilical cord, where I planted every tree with these hands, where my Carmela's bones rest. It's not an asset to sell. It's who we are." He took a breath. "You talk of the future as if you've decided it for us, as if people like me must vanish or become employees. You're wrong." He took Lucy's hand. "The future isn't yours alone. We build it too, calloused hands and all. My ranch isn't for sale, not today, not ever." He turned to leave, head high, Lucy beside him. At the door he paused. "If you ever want to truly learn the land, El Amanecer's gates are open. But come humbly. Land isn't conquered with money, it's earned with respect." Part 3. 6 months have passed since that night. El Amanecer is unchanged yet transformed. Not in its physical form, the same coffee plants still slope. Down the hillside, the same cornfield stretches by the creek, but because the wind carried new seeds. The confrontation, discreetly recorded by a waiter, went viral. "Farmer and genius daughter face off against agribusiness," read a rural news headline. Their Radio Indigena interview aired nationwide. Visitors began arriving. Students, journalists, fellow farmers. They came to study Lucy's system, learn from Rosendo's traditional wisdom, understand how productivity and conservation balanced. Lucy organized workshops. Rosendo, initially reluctant, shared his knowledge. Seed selection, weather prediction by natural signs, water management, with the shy pride of a man finally valuing his own treasure. The project spread. 7 neighboring families adopted their methods. A cooperative formed for collective sales. A university now offers agroecology scholarships, so youth can study without abandoning their land. AgroFuture still operates in the region, buying land, expanding its industrial model, but it's no longer the only narrative, the only future. An alternative grows, visible, tangible, like corn after the first rain. This morning, Rosendo watches dawn from his porch. February's cold bites his cheeks, but he doesn't mind. He sees Lucy walking the coffee fields with visitors, explaining, laughing. He removes his hat, holding it to his chest. The same worn hat, but he's no longer ashamed of it. It's a badge now, a symbol of belonging. The sun gilds the mountain peaks. A soft wind rustles the avocado leaves. Rosendo closes his eyes, breathing deep. He imagines Carmela beside him, her silent pride. "The land never betrayed me," he murmurs, "and I won't betray it." A single tear rolls down his weathered cheek, falling onto Michoacan's red earth. The land that isn't for sale, the land that is loved,